Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday night edition of the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Greg Christ, Frank Fear, Mickey Plumley will be joining us here momentarily. I want to welcome you into the show. We got another former great Mountaineer player to talk to tonight. Should be a lot of fun. Eric Wicks. Any of you that are fans of the Mountaineers and over the past few years will know who this guy is. He's a player. And Frank, welcome in. Good to see you again.
Boy, it's always a great Wednesday to see you and Mickey and Eric, our guest, and of course Darren and Mark Parsons, who does a great job for us behind the scenes. It's, as Mickey says, and as Tony Caridi says, it's a great time to be a Mountaineer.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of that, we get excited when we talk different aspects of what's going on in Mountaineer land, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, women's basketball, rifle, soccer, whatever it is. We're excited about it, and like you said, it's a good time to be a Mountaineer because a lot of exciting stuff going on, and our baseball team is doing it, and we're looking forward to getting that underway. And I tell you what, Frank, these guys, I know face a tough task, but this team is capable, I think, of doing a huge amount of damage in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. And, we'll talk more about it after we talk with Eric. But, this team is number one in the conference in pitching and fielding. Yep. Number 5 in hitting, it's incredibly balanced. Number 9 ranked in the country. It's just, this should be the year. Let's just keep our fingers crossed. We'll be watching tomorrow night when they play the winner of the TCU Kansas State game. They're going to be a little bit, actually very late tonight. I think it's an 11 o'clock Eastern start on ESPNU, but we'll play at 7:30 Eastern tomorrow, and everybody's going to be on that. We'll talk more about it later, but it's amazing because in the old days, you didn't have all these activities going so late in the season. It was pretty much for most of us, for many of us at least, it was a football, basketball, a doubleheader. And then when the basketball season was over, you waited. Of course, you had spring practice, not to disparage the other sports, but you waited until the football season again. But that's not the case at all. So You're right. You ticked off all those great teams.
Yep, and I think the fan base is excited about the upcoming football season, but they're also excited about the baseball team. They're excited about what Coach Hodges has done with the basketball team, Coach Kellogg with the women's basketball team. I just think there's a good feeling around the programs right now, and hopefully we can seize on this momentum. I heard a talk show guy, Big 12 talk show guy. Today I was listening to him, and his dark horse pick in the conference in football was West Virginia. Wow. And he said I think that they're on the right track, and he said I think it's going to be for the next 10 years they're going to be a force in the Big 12. And he said we've seen what they've done in the past, and we know what they got going on now. And that was his pick. He said to be the team that really showed out in the Big 12 and became one of the main representatives of the conference. So people are noticing, Yeah. And the baseball team, and again, we'll talk about this later, but they're getting hot. They got hot at the right time,
Well, that's right.
We talked about the unlikelihood of them sweeping Kansas. Mm-hmm. They did it. Then, they won the series against TCU. And, I think in that TCU series, you saw when they're pitching and they're hitting were both good at the same time. Pretty good baseball team. So,
absolutely. You're talking about that football prediction. I hadn't heard that. Is it could be hopefully as good as it was back in Eric's time because, winning 41 out of 50 games, 80%, over 80% back in the day. And it wasn't that many years ago, but that would be fantastic. Let's get Mickey in here for his observations, and then we'll turn to Eric, huh?
Hello, Mick.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me here again this evening. Excited to have Eric on the show here with us tonight. Followed his career during Rich Rod's first tenure at WVU. Boy, was that exciting times back in 2006, 7, and 8, and 2005. So really excited to be here with you. Excited about baseball. Firing up tomorrow night. You know, we got 3 good things going for us here. We're won 9 out of the last 10 games. We got a double bye to start the tournament, and we got an RPI ranking of 19, which is highest in the Big 12. So, you know, I think we're loaded for bear, ready to go, and all we got to do is win 3 games, and we're off and running.
Yeah.
Yep, like you said, 9 out of the last 10, they've been playing well, and you know, you want to get hot at the end of the season, and you got to be hot at the right time, and that looks like we are.
Yeah, but tonight we're going to be talking football with Eric, and as I mentioned, boy, he played on some exciting teams. So I'm really psyched up here to listen to some of his stories about what things were like back during that era.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun. So let's not keep dragging it out. Let's get him on here. Eric Wicks, our guest tonight, former WVU D-back, and what a good one he was. And Eric, thank you for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate that, and we look forward to hearing, like Mickey said, some of these stories from back in those glory days. And they were glory days for all of us, not just you guys.
Right. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a good time, man. It's going to be a good time.
I got to ask you right off the bat. I know you're from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know how you ended up at WVU, and you know, what was that process like, being a Pittsburgh guy and going to the hated Mountaineers?
Well, you could say it was pretty rough early on. Let's just say I was a kid coming out of the south side of Pittsburgh thinking that I was going to go to the University of Pitt, going down to the 7-on-7s and all those things every year was an excitement for us and my high school team at Perry. And then when it came down to actually being recruited, it was one school that never came to recruit me, and that was Pitt. So it gave me that animosity to, you know, really want to get after those guys. But not only that, West Virginia with Coach Gibby, he came in like, I want to say the beginning of my 10th grade year and basically started recruiting me and Vaughn Rivers. And it was already a thing of like, okay, West Virginia is the school for me. So, you know, from there on, it kind of just gave me that little fire, you know, to kind of get you going to say, yeah, Pitt's gonna pay for this one.
Good deal. That's the kind of story we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. And you mentioned Coach Gibby, good friend of mine, and he did a good job recruiting. Got a lot of nice players, including you two guys up there. So that's pretty cool stuff right there. And like I said, Mick, those are the kind of stories we like to hear. You know, throw it in Pitt's face. So
right.
Yeah, talk about your high school career just a little bit. What your positions and then you know, you mentioned Gibby recruiting you, and then the transformation from high school to college. What was that like for you?
Well, in high school, we were the City League of Pittsburgh, pretty much a powerhouse. We lost 4 games in my high school career. Basically, we would lose that last game of the semifinals of the playoff state playoffs every year. But we would dominate. We averaged, I think it was about 67 points a game and shut out. We shut out 13 teams in the senior season. We were good. We were really good. Our biggest downfall was we get to the playoffs, the state playoffs, and we go against Tyler Palco for 2 years, and then Paul Plesney for my 3rd year. So it was one of those deals where, like I always say, it was a great high school experience. It would have been great if we would have been able to go win the ship, but we got the City League championship and wasn't able to actually go get the state title. But it was a good experience. It prepared us for college to basically say where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do. But at the same time, I understood that it was going to take a lot more work, wherever I was going to college, to be prepared to make sure we went to go win. Was
there any, wouldn't call it culture shock, but any any shock when you first dealt with Coach Rodriguez?
Oh, yes. Yes. Let's just say I was a kid in a shell. I was afraid. I mean, you see Coach, he's up there, he's talking to you, he's nice and calm, right? And then you go out to the practice field and Coach is going crazy and you're like, okay, what do I do now? You know, it's like, make sure we're right? Don't make any mistakes. But for me, you know, my first year on campus, I was a prop. So with me being a prop 48, going through the experience of working out with Coach Barwis for a full year, was the biggest shock for me early on, because it was just me and Coach for a full year, me and Coach Barwis, and we did workouts, we did running, conditioning, the whole deal, and there was not cheating one rep. So let's just say that kind of prepared me for what I needed when it was time to go play. And then that next year when I was able to step on the field, let's just say Coach ripped me a new one, and I was kind of prepared. Like I wasn't as afraid once he got after me, because I had seen it happen a few times before that. And I kind of knew what to expect. Basically, he just was trying to make it, you know, put some fire under you and get you going. So.
And you lost 4 games in high school, not very many in college. You haven't lost much in your career. It's pretty impressive.
No, sir. And the thing that we always said, because like I said, Vaughn Rivers was my roommate in college, but he was my best friend from high school. So we went to Perry together. But the thing that we did in high school was we kind of took the team on. And when we first got there, we already had a tradition of players that were already good. We had the guys like Rod Rutherford, Rod Butler, those guys that went to Pitt. So that's why we had that Pitt in our sights type of deal. And then once we realized that they weren't giving us the respect we deserved, it became one of those, okay, we'll make you pay for that one.
Mickey, you want to jump in with a question or two?
Yeah, I was just curious, who were some of the players that you remember that stand out most in your mind that you played with, both on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, early in my career, let's just say Rasheed Marshall, of course, he helped host me for my visit and things like that. But he went to Brashear, which is a neighboring school of my high school. And then, of course, Chris Henry, let's just say with me being a prop 48 and him being a prop 48, he kind of sat me down and kind of had to talk with me to get me to understand, hey, man, they brought you in for a reason. You know, they took a chance on you. They know you're good. They just need to make sure you're going to be a hard worker and do what they ask. And let's just say after that, it was one of those things where it kind of made it easier for me to understand what was expected. Of course, Pac-Man Jones, being able to sit down with him one day, it was one of those things where, you know, you're telling yourself, I'm going to play, I'm going to get on the field. And I'm sitting there with Pac-Man and a lot of the guys, and I basically just told him, like, hey, man, I'm a good player. And when I get on the field, I'm going to be able to help you. You know what I mean? And it was one of those experiences where basically being able to tell him that, and then a few weeks later, I was able to get the interception for Virginia Tech. So, you know, it's just one of those type deals as far as the defensive guys. And, I mean, as far as our guys on our team. And then a guy that taught me a lot was Mike Lorello, Jamil Adai, those guys in the safety, the back end, they really, you know, taught me how to play the game, taught me what was expected to be a West Virginia DB. And then, like we always say, everybody knows Pat McAfee now, right? He's one of the most celebrities that we got as far as West Virginia now. And remember, he was my locker room partner, basically. We were right next to each other. He would tell me little jokes and tell me different things and, you know, kind of mess with him every once in a while. But, I mean, I can go on for days. I remember every single guy that I played with. And I went and watched some videos actually the other night to kind of, you know, tell myself to prepare for the meeting for what we have here. And basically I'm looking at numbers. I'm like, oh, Bobby Hathaway, and, you know, just thinking about all the different guys and what they were good at and what they did and how we interacted with each other. So just you know, experience.
And you actually played three different safety positions, didn't you? You were a free safety at times, and at times you were the bandit. Is that right?
Yes, sir. This bandit.
And then the third position was the what's it called? Not the spear, but
The spur. Spur. Yep.
part of the wheel. The spur. That's it. The spur. Can you maybe describe to the audience what the difference is in those three positions? Your approach, to the game, and how you transition from one of those to the other.
Yes. So
I think that would be educational for everybody.
For me to play all three, it's actually what helped me. I always wanted to be a coach, but it kind of gave me more of an insight on, what's expected, what you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to work within each position on the defense. And the spur safety was an early part of my career where, I was a little bit heavier from lifting weights with Coach Barwis for a full year. So I was just muscular, just a big dude. And basically that was like, I treated that more as like your outside linebacker / safety. You're going to be a lot of blitzing because we're the strong side of the defense. You're going to have a lot of run game responsibilities. And you have to be a guy to make sure the ball does not get outside of you. Your main job is keeping the ball inside for the rest of the defense to be able to make a play or you make a play. And then that bandit safety is the backside safety. He's basically like your weak side safety, or some people call it the strong safety now, but basically the backside safety, where he's a guy that does do some blitzing because of what we played as far as that 3-3-5 defense. But he's a guy that's going to be in coverage as well. So he's able to do all three, whether it's run protection, blitzing, or playing in coverage, along with some man-to-man type things. So that was what I played later in the career for the most part, like once we got into that junior, senior year. And then as far as free safety, I didn't play it much. It was like every once in a lifetime based on the situation. I would get a few free safety reps. And that is more of your top of the defense. That's the guy that makes sure everything stays beneath him. If there's a deep pass, he should be involved in it. And if there's any quarterback run, he would be involved in the run game as well.
I played on the offensive line, Eric, and when you're an offensive lineman, you have to know not only your assignment, but you have to know the assignments of the other offensive linemen as well. I'm sure in each of those three positions, you had to be cognizant of what was going on with your teammates, and I imagine it was different in each of those three, right?
Oh, definitely. And the awesome part about it was sometimes when I was making those plays, I was not where coach expected me to be. Let's just say that. It was one of those things where you're watching some film, you know what they're going to do. You see the formation, you see the setup, you see what's going to happen, and you go, you know what? I see what they're doing here. I'm going to have to take this one. And coach will say, hey, don't do that again, but good play.
There's a lot to the mental aspect of the game that I think a lot of people may not appreciate as much as the physical aspect of it. Of course, you had both. You were always known as a big play maker. You had several big plays in your career, and I was particularly interested. I think Frank may have some film on one of these, but you had two outstanding games against Louisville your junior and senior year. Helped in that 38-31 win. That was in Morgantown, right? And then the following year, helped with, didn't you have an interception in the end zone to help seal that victory in one of those two games?
That was that Louisville? I think it was Louisville.
Yeah, I think it was.
I know I had one in the middle of the field. I can't remember because I know the Rutgers one gets stuck in my mind too. That's where I get stuck between the two with the double overtimes and the
yeah.
I lost your sound there, Eric. You still with us?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. And then the other thing that I really enjoyed about that era, those teams, and particularly your experience as a Mountaineer, is you got to play in 3 bowl games, right? You got to play in the 05 Sugar Bowl, the 06 Gator, and then the 07 Fiesta Bowl, right?
Yeah, yep. And then technically 4, because we played in the Gator Bowl the year before as well. What was that versus Florida State? Yes, so 05 as well. Yes.
Right. That's right. So, and you won all 4 of those bowl games, didn't you?
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct.
Or were you? Yeah. Yeah, because I think you went down the history at WVU as perhaps it's Pat White I'm thinking of as quarterback, only QB to win 4 consecutive bowl games at WVU.
Well,
Of course, you were on those same teams, right?
When you got a guy like
What's
Pat
that?
White, when you got a guy like Pat White, it makes it easy to go get those bowl games, right?
That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Of course, I guess he had his coming out party in that Louisville game that you were so instrumental in,
Yeah.
and that helping us win that game as well.
Yes.
Can you have any recollections about him coming off the bench to help seal the victory in that particular game?
Oh yeah, because let's just say we knew Pat was good. We had seen him in practice, of course. We see him flying around. We see him making plays, all that type of stuff. But when your starting quarterback goes down, it's always that fear, in your heart, like what's going to happen? What are we going to do next? We know Pat's good, but how's it going to work out versus this team? All that type of stuff. So like, let's just say he goes down, and we're like, oh, Pat's going in. And you feel like the whole defense is like hearts racing a little bit, like, oh, what are we going to do here? And in the first play, when he makes a good play, it's like, oh, we're okay. We're good. Yeah, we got this game. That's the thing about like when we played in our games, there was never any doubt. Like Coach Rod really instilled in us. And sometimes I wonder exactly what happened, but we believed every single game we were going to win. There was never a chance or a time that we thought we were ever going to lose. It was unreal that we were going to lose.
You have that mindset. It's tough to beat somebody if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
That's the only way to be. Well, Greg, I can turn it back over to you or Frank if you like. Those are
let's
two
go ahead
things I wanted to ask Eric about.
Yep, let's go ahead and jump in there with Frank. And he's been sitting back here drinking coffee. It's time to put him to work. So come on in, Frank.
I see him taking notes back there.
Oh yeah, always. Hey, every time we do this show, Eric, I learn a lot. Actually, I'm glad that Nikki brought up that question and you responded because I wrote it down. And that is when you think about the bowl lineup you guys played. You played Florida State first year, then you played Georgia, beat Florida State, beat Georgia, then Georgia Tech the third year, and then blew out Oklahoma the last year. And, that's what everyone is hoping for. Will the Mountaineers get back to where they were? But I'll tell you, and this is going to if we can cue up Darren to play the video of the 2007 Louisville game. If there's a guy that sees you walking down,
he loses the football. It's picked up by Eric Wicks. He's running down the field at the 30, the 20, the 15, the 10, 5. End zone touchdown, Eric Wicks. He recovered the fumble after Brown was hit.
When Coach Castile calls defenses, he calls some great calls, and he called a field blitz from me and the linebacker and me and Johnny Holmes. And when we went on that blitz, he cleaned the quarterback up, and the ball just fell out. And when it fell out, I said, touchdown, let's go. So it was a great play.
And Brom gets the ball. Drops back, throwing out of his own end zone, fires deep downfield. The pass deflected, and it is intercepted by West Virginia. Immediately going down is Eric Wicks.
I'll tell you, if there's one person, he's offensive coordinator at Louisville right now. It's Brian Brom would not want to see you coming. If you come down the hall, he's running the other way, I think. He's with his brother Jeff at Louisville. He's the OC and quarterbacks coach, obviously, and Jeff's the head coach. But, you just see the athleticism in that video. I'm glad we could cue it up here, Tony, make the call. But, you had other memories. But that game must have been a big game in your memory bank. Still must be.
Always. Let's just say when it came to Louisville, we had a little bit of we had some stuff for them. Let's just say we've always had a little bit more because that was the team that always gave us problems. We looked at them as a big time rival because of those things. So every time when we went out against them, it was give it everything you got, no matter the situation. Doesn't matter if you're hurt, doesn't matter if you're tired. Let's go out there and play all the snaps, and let's go ahead and try to get these guys. And we weren't always successful, and that's what made it even better when you're able to be.
Yeah. And you think about back in the day, too, that the teams you played against every year, the Big 12 is great, and we understand why it worked out for West Virginia to go to the Big 12. But, playing Pitt, playing Syracuse, Boston College, Virginia Tech every year, teams like that, Maryland, throw Maryland in there, Virginia once in a while. It makes it so great for fans to be able to travel, see those games. They know neighbors that have gone to those schools or have had kids that go to those schools. You played against a lot of those players in high school, and it just revs up. So many of us, Eric, miss those Big East days.
I mean, believe it or not, that's how I ended up getting a job. I worked at Bucknell for 8 years before I just basically stopped coaching college, helping with high school now. And the guy, Joe Susan, he was a Rutgers coach, and I played against him, and basically that's why he hired me. He was like, I remember when you played, you gave us problems. We made sure we went away from you, things like that. So it was like it is always good to hear, but not only that, like you said, it's just so close, with that Big East.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows? And this leads into the next question. Who knows what the future is going to bring in reconfiguration, the NIL, the revenue sharing. Your thoughts about this current circumstance in college football, college sports generally, and where do you think it's going to settle? Or are you just basically going to throw up your hands and say, "Hey, your guess is as good as mine," which it probably is. But your thoughts anyway.
Well, it's one of those things where, as an old player, we talk amongst other players and stuff like that, and we're like, yeah, it would have been nice if we were getting paid back when we were playing. It would have been a nice situation. But then you think about the way the game's going and where it's going. It's a little scary, man. I mean, there's coaches, and with me being a coach now, you look at it and you're like, all right, I have a team. And then the next year you're like, I don't have a team. Now you're back in the portal and you're back in, so it's those things that I feel like is very scary. It's worrisome for a coach. But at the same time, it's one of the things where, the kids are able to take care of themselves. I just feel like at some point you gotta figure it out, cap it out, do something to stop all the transferring every single year. Like it's just a lot going on. And you're going to scare away a lot of good coaches is how I'm kind of looking at it at this point. Yeah,
no, I think you're right. And it's really is the Wild West because you can't really predict what's going to happen next. And in fact, and we said this years ago, Greg, Mickey, and I have talked about this. In a way, the courts become the really the dominating force because suits are filed, and whatever happens is not because of the NCAA, or Congress, but because someone's filed a suit. It's settled, and as a consequence, that's the next chapter. But one last question before we kick it back to Greg is, you played for Rich Rod 1. We now have got Rich Rod 2, an older, wiser person, but still the same Rich Rod. Mm-hmm. You heard Greg at the opening. We have a pundit predicting that WVU is going to come out of the gate strong this year. Your thoughts about Rich Rod back in Morgantown, what you saw last year, what you're seeing this year, and where do you think we're going to end up over the next couple of years?
Well, I'm a true believer in Coach Rod. Let's just say it's been a long time since I had been down to West Virginia. This year has been my first year down in about 15 years. But to be down, bring my kids down, be around all the guys, be around all the coaches, I believe that coaches, he's getting getting everybody on the right path and getting everybody to understand what it takes to be dominant in whatever conference that you're in, but at the same time, understanding the work that you got to put in to make sure you get there. I believe that when I'm looking at Coach Rod, it's not always, like the years that we had, it's not always going to go that way, but we do understand that he's going to give you that work ethic and he's going to help you grow as a man, because that work ethic is more than just football, and how he teaches it is more than just football. So I'm a believer in what they're going to do. I think that they're going to be a powerhouse for the next few years. I think that they're going to be a team that you got to worry about. You can't just look up there and go, oh, it's just West Virginia. Yeah, we got those guys. We'll move on. It's going to be a team that you have to make sure you bring your A game, whether the record is showing above 500 or not, because that's the one thing that coach always talked about, playing as hard as you can, no matter the situation. So you might lose the game, but that team knows that you were in that game. So making sure that, and as you continue to do enough of those, because I feel like we were the team that the teams before us had the rough years. So we were able to get in there and make things happen and win, right? But I think like this year and the next year is what's going to happen there. They're going to build those tough days, those tough moments, build the standard, and basically for the rest of the guys to come in and live up to that standard.
Yeah, well stated. That's the Mountaineer way. Kick it back to you, Greg.
All right, Eric. Before we let you go, tell us a little bit about your time after WVU, your career. What twists and turns did you make along the way? So
I ended up getting signed as a free agent to Seattle Seahawks. Great experience, but ended up splitting my patella tendon right after camp type situation. So ended up getting cut. Went on to started working at the bank for a little bit, and then actually called Coach Gibby. So that's how I ended up getting into coaching. Coach Gibby got me down there when he actually ended up at Pitt, and worked with him for a year. Worked with Todd Graham for a year, and then I took a job at Bucknell University. So I was the DB coach, the corners coach for 2 years, and then the secondary coach / co-coordinator, special teams coordinator for 5 years or so at Bucknell. And then we got fired from there. And me and my wife, I got married and had kids. So me and my wife started a large animal practice. She's a large animal vet. We own a large animal mobile clinic. So she drives around and services horses, cows, goats, the whole nine. And basically I have a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And, I coach high school ball here in Lewisburg, PA. So we're doing that. I'm the head coach for the high school. So we do that. We run our business. We love our kids, and we run around and just take care of business. For the most part, just trying to make as much time as possible and helping the kids in the area. I mean, when I was coaching and when I knew I wanted to coach college, but my dream job was always high school. I wanted to go back and work with young athletes, build them before they got their egos, help them out, get them to understand what it takes to be a good athlete, what it takes to be a good student athlete, because academically is the most important thing. And like we always talk about is life after football or life after sport. So being in this area, I think I'm doing a good job of working with that and working with football. But for the most part, just enjoying life and trying to link up as much as possible with some old friends and teammates. Awesome.
Very interesting business model there. So I know I got to ask this question now. I know that you being around that, I'm sure has some farrier talents.
Oh yeah.
When you clip those horses or cows' hooves, is that not the most satisfying thing in the world when you clip down that big thing comes off?
Right? It's awesome, right?
I don't know what it is, but there's a guy on TikTok that I watch all the time. It's called Nate the Hoof Guy. Uh-huh. He goes on and he fixes the cows' hooves and trims them up and all that. And I'm just mesmerized by it. I can't quit watching it. I don't know why.
Just a little toenail clipping for a horse, right?
Yeah. It's fascinating to watch. That is interesting, and I got some questions about that. But are there a lot of like elephants in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania?
No. So that's what. So the wife did get to work on a Komodo dragon, but. For the most part, we don't. It's all just local farm animals and stuff like that. And then we have like a little, it's called like a dinosaur park or something like that, where they have like some older, some Komodo dragons and some snakes and things like that. So the wife isn't really. She really doesn't like the snakes and stuff, but the Komodo dragon. But our main thing as far as with our business is. Breeding horses. So she's, okay. So we do a lot of breeding and things like that. That's the main
So
thing.
is this something that you were inclined to do, or is this something that she helped you learn how to do?
Ah, come on. She taught me that thing, man. I mean, I'm a city kid out of Pittsburgh. I knew nothing about horses, cows, goats, anything like that. So it was one of those things where, as a young pup, we're riding around and I'm learning her and I'm like, okay, here we go, and like I always say, being a coach, I outkicked my coverage. I did a great job recruiting, and she's been teaching me a lot ever since.
That's pretty fascinating. That's pretty cool. Pretty good stuff. Well, listen, continued success coaching. Now, you don't teach, do you? Just coach?
No, sir. Nope, just coach.
Good for you. Good for you. I taught for 32 years, so high school. Fascinating. And Frank, Mickey, as always, another success story after WVU. We always, we learn what people have done since they graduated and left Morgantown, and it's always amazing to hear some of the stories. Yours, probably the most unique one I've heard so far. So that's
well, it's like what I said. I was in West Virginia for 5 years and never seen a horse, and then I leave, and now that's all I do.
Well, not that I would know this, but where I live, you can go to a local bar, and somebody will ride a horse in and the parking lot. And that's the truth. That is the truth. Hey, strap him up outside.
Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. I wish we had another hour or two. Great career. Awesome stuff you're doing since then. It was a pleasure, real pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you, and thanks for having me. Pleasure's all mine.
Absolutely. And you're more than welcome to hang out after the show as we wrap up. I don't know if you want to sit and listen to us for another 10, 15 minutes, but you don't have to leave. We'll put you backstage, but you're welcome to stay or go. It's up to you. So
Okay.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, what an impressive guy. I was watching the banner on the Voice of College Football, and Eric Owens says, "Hey, Quicken Wicks, Quicken Wicks." And it's true. I mean, the athleticism you could see in that clip. The people haven't seen him before. He had that ability to know where the ball is going to go. I mean, that's when you think about it as a defensive player. It's like an outfielder in baseball. You have a sense you break for the ball before it's actually even hit. But great guy, great career. Didn't know about the vet, so I'm glad you asked the question.
That's pretty cool, Eric.
Yeah.
I can remember watching play, obviously. A phenomenal player. And I think, I wouldn't say he was overlooked, but he didn't get all the attention because you had, Pac-Man and some of the other names that he named who were very good defensive backs and, more flashy and that sort of thing. So they got the headlines, but man, he was a player. He was a good player. And I just think maybe he was slightly overlooked. I don't know if that's the right word or not. I don't think he was overlooked. I think he was just not as shown as much or talked about as much because of the people around him. But he was an integral part, and he was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stats: 200 tackles over his career.
Yep.
Obviously, a good number of those solo. He had 10 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. Played special teams too. Smart guy. I also didn't know that he was Prop 48. And so when you think about what a college education is about, and it really served him well. And it was great hearing him talk about, the giving back that he's doing in Lewisburg.
Oh, yeah.
And also, being able to coach high school after you've coached college means that he can not only share what he learned at the college level as a coach, but prepare these kids for their own college journey.
Absolutely.
So great situation. And that attitude, always a smile on his face.
Oh,
just very, very impressive. Very, very. Mickey, I tell you what, it just reinforces I don't care how good a coach you are in terms of the X's and O's, but you know this. We all know this. You got to recruit, and you can't just recruit talent. You got to recruit character. This guy's an example of both.
Yep. And you could tell the heart that he's got and how it's involved and how he makes his decisions. I mean, anyone that, takes that opportunity, takes what they've learned being a college football coach, chooses to go back to the high school level for their own family life and to be able to influence the development of young men. You got to tip your hat to them, no question about it. I mean, just as most people, if not all the people we've had on the show, shows where their heart is, shows their West Virginia Mountaineer spirit, and paying it forward on what was taught to them by their coaching staff, and be able to take that and play it down through the generations. Just a great guy.
Yeah, blessed, absolutely blessed. Well, guys, let's do the pirouette and talk about baseball. That's the headline that we got this week, and maybe what you can do, Darren, is throw up that baseball slide that we can use as a basis for talking about it. But boy, I'll tell you what, got to win tomorrow night, and I don't know if you guys saw it. I just saw it late. Coach Saban's has decided to do what he did last weekend and opened up the series with Corn. And he's going to do that again tomorrow night, and it's likely to be TCU.
Yep, and I fully understand that. I mean, single elimination. I mean, you lose, you're out. So, I'm sure in his mind he wants to, give us the very best shot we have, and you worry about the next game after you win that first one. You don't win that first one, you don't have to worry about the second one. So I agree with him. I think you throw your best out there and you go after him. Now, I know, if I'm not mistaken, TCU maybe threw their number 2 guy to save number 1, but a little different circumstance, the lesser opponent, and, they could use him if they had to. So I'm sure they've looked at it and realized they didn't probably have to. Now, we can always hope that the upset is pulled, and we can throw a number 4 guy against them. But it's do or die, so you can't. Why risk it? Throw your best out there and see what happens.
That's a good point, Greg. And one of the things I think we have to understand, we were having a conversation before the show. TCU is very likely going to make the playoffs, the national playoffs, whether they win or lose. If they lose tonight, odds are they're still going to be in there. And so they can take the risk of using a 3rd or 4th tier baseball player, because if they win tonight and then they throw, who was it, Davis out there, the guy that threw that 3-hitter? He threw a 3-hitter on Friday night against us. We just couldn't hit him. And it's very likely that we're going to see him tomorrow night, because if they can win, then he can bring in his other pitchers like Jones, or is it James? I always get confused, particularly when we're playing. We don't play a team very often. But the bottom line is that let's make sure I get that right. I do have it. It's Zach James. Lance Davis is the guy that threw that 3-hitter. And Zach James is another top tier pitcher for TCU, as well as Tommy Lepore. So they can risk it. We're playing for a home regional, we hope, and I think you guys would agree with it. If we can take the Big 12, since we're the number 1 team going in the Big 12, we're likely going to get a home regional. The problem is, and you can see it in that chart, what hurts WVU is their strength of schedule. Its strength of schedule is not a strong suit for the Big 12 this year. You can see Kansas in the middle of the chart is 68. We're 62. TCU, I think, is in the 60s too, or around there. So that's why we are ranked 9th in the country. That's perception. but in the RPI, we're 19. Big gap between where we're ranked nationally and where we're seated. And the College World Series picks are based on the RPI for the most part, not the ranking. And so that's why that's a 10-slot gap. And in fact, because we lost one game to TCU, we went from 18 to 19 in RPI. So as good as this team is, great ERE as a staff, top 3 pitchers in the Big 12. That's amazing. Are all WVU guys. Got great hitters like Kelly. It's that strength of schedule and the standing in the RPI. I mean, Wake Forest is a team to watch because they're right ahead of us. They've lost more games than WVU, but because they have a better RPI, you can see it there. They're 15th. It's they're playing tonight, and if they lose, that means we'll gain ground. But we just gotta hope, keep on winning, and then slide in. It would be wonderful, wouldn't it, to get a home regional?
No, absolutely. And this strength of schedule thing, I don't know. It's like the polls. It's just like the top 25 polls. If they pick them before the season, who decides that Marshall's a weaker opponent than Virginia Tech? I know there's formulas that go into it and all that, but in reality, in baseball, you guys know this. Anybody in baseball can beat anybody anytime. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people will say that about football and basketball, but I disagree. I think if you're better in football, 9 times out of 10 you're going to win. If you're better in basketball, 9 times out of 10 you're going to win. Baseball is not really like that. Mm-hmm. It's just different. And this strength of schedule thing riles me a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I guess they have to have some way of figuring it out and some way of doing it, but I don't know. That strength of schedule thing always gets me, and because you play who you play, and we make those trips out west and play all those games out there. That should count for something, whether it's good teams or not. Mm-hmm. But it don't. So I think there's a lot that goes into that that's not really always fair, but I don't make the rules, so. It would be nice to get in there and get one. That'd be awesome.
Yep. Mick, your thoughts?
Well, I think you guys pretty well covered it. I don't like the one and done single game elimination when it comes to conference championships. Doesn't Frank, didn't you mention the Big Ten is double elimination? Is that right?
That's correct. Big Ten is double elimination. And I may be wrong. I think at one point in time, the Big 12 was too. But now they're in a single elimination. And going back to what Greg said, on any given night applies probably more in baseball than any other sport I can think of. When you think about, you can win the World Series and lose, 60 games for a season. So, that's right. But it's a single elimination, and it's I agree with you completely.
You agree with the should be double elimination, or do you like the single?
I like the double.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, because any pitcher can have a bad night, or somebody gets hot with a bat, or somebody that's been hot with a bat, ends up going 0 for 4, and just a lot riding on a singular game. NBA championships, World Series. I'm not saying you go best 4 out of 7, but I think at least it should be best 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really
personal opinion.
I may not have time to do this, but make it double elimination, and then at the end, the 2 left standing, make it a best 2 out of 3. I wouldn't have any problem with that. I think that would be a good fair way to do it, because, like you said, all these other ones, you play best 4 out of 7, and those are. You usually get the best team in the end when you do it that way, and I think I think it would be, not only would it be entertaining, it would be fair, And because, like I said, you can lose a game in baseball pretty easy. I mean, like you said, somebody gets hot, somebody makes an error. I mean, you just never know. And to lose one and be out, that's pretty tough.
And I was thinking, Greg and Nikki, as you guys were talking, that this, obviously, Greg, you were a coach for a long time. And Mickey's really thoughtful about sports and what goes into winning. Steve Sabins has a philosophy and approach, and that is he doesn't load up on power teams early in the season. He plays, and he has to play teams on their home ground in the South. And so he plays what we call in football group of 5, group of 6 teams for the most part to get going, and really then focuses on the Big 12. The other thing that I think that we're seeing, and it's really paying tremendous dividends, he's taken the approach, which I really like, of combing the lower divisions in college sports, D2, even D3, for players that hold promise at the highest level in college sports. And then when you think about the guys that he's brought up, Korn is a good example. And look, he's going to be to the biggest series, and he's the leading pitcher, and he wasn't a starter before. But these guys show that they can do it at a lower level. He identifies them, gets them to come to Morgantown, and they deliver, not only on the pitching side, but also on the hitting side. And the other thing I think, and what you were saying, Greg, is what you described is the way they do it at the College World Series. It's a double elimination, and then the last 2 teams standing go 2 out of 3.
Yep.
I have to believe that it's about money, that they want to get through that conference championship quickly, and to extend it by going double elimination, then 2 out of 3, which just add a lot of time, a lot of money, and because it's just it makes sense in basketball, but doesn't make so much sense in baseball. I agree with Mick.
Yeah, and you're right. It is about money. I mean, that's what drives everything, and it's not really about fairness and that sort of things. That they're wanting the money, not wanting to spend the money. And but it would be fair, and to the TV networks and others, those conference tournaments don't matter, for the most part. I mean, rarely do you have to win your conference tournament to get in the tournament. They pretty well know the tournament layout before these conference tournaments start. And so they're just not important to the higher ups as much as they are fans, and probably the players. I would say the players probably would prefer 2 out of 3 as well, or double elimination as well. I don't know that for sure, but I would guess they would.
Yeah. Well, just to go back to your observation about it likely is in the money and the media, is that tomorrow night's game, West Virginia probably against TCU, but you never know, could be K-State. That's on ESPNU, but most of the other games are on ESPN Plus. And the other thing is that even if West Virginia somehow stumbles, it's not the right word, but doesn't win the Big 12, doesn't get a home regional. Okay, now, remember what West Virginia did 2 years ago. They went out to Arizona when they had a powerhouse team. Arizona was the number 1 team in that region. They lost. West Virginia won, and won that regional. And last year, Clemson was a powerhouse. West Virginia went out there, won the regional in South Carolina. So it doesn't mean that if you host, you're an automatic winner. And of course, in baseball, you get the super regionals that are 2 out of 3. What you want if you do well, I mean, that is the holy grail. Win your home regional to the point that then you're picked to be the host of a super regional. Then you have a real advantage in a 2 out of 3 series.
Yeah, I agree. And and like you said, again, baseball is different. How much does the home field mean? But I think for West Virginia, it would mean a ton as opposed to some other places that are used to doing that. It's not something that we're accustomed to. So I think it would be an advantage for us. And to get a super regional there would just be unbelievable. And, and like I said, with this team, you never know. They get that super regional, get a regional, then super regional. Who knows what they can do? This team can be a very good team, and they've been pretty solid all year. We had one little down spell, but for the most part, this team has performed very well all season. And if they, you saw the last week and a half, if they get right, they're hard to beat. But they're 9 out of 10, so there was one game in there that they lost. And you can lose one game anytime.
That's right.
Now you lose one game and you're finished.
Yeah. And the other thing that we got to throw props, Mick. When I'm thinking about I'm not even sure you guys had a strength and conditioning coach back in the day, back in the '60s, but the support staff that surrounds this baseball team, that includes nutritionists, sports scientists, the tacticianers, because a lot of it is data-based. When you watch college baseball, maybe even more so than the pros, it's amazing. They're constantly shifting the infield and the outfield. And obviously, they've got to have someone who's doing the analytics. But the thing that I'm really that's impressive, but the sports science people that surround the Mountaineer baseball program, and they're looking at every possible way, collecting data, doing research constantly that then can be fed into the program to improve players, their play, and to improve game strategy. Mick, I tell you, it's amazing how advanced these programs have become over the last 25, 30, 40 years.
Really, really is, Frank. I tell you, there's so much science that goes into it now. Even artificial intelligence is starting to play a role in it. I don't know if you saw the communique from Coach Saban's, but they just made a major investment in the training room. Cold tubs, hot tubs, all sort of rapid recovery, new techniques for general conditioning. It's a science today. Used to be an art, back in the 60s, they just put us on a weight machine, and you had a strength and conditioning coach yelling at you the whole time, and he was just pumping as much iron as you could. So things have come a long, long way over that half century now that it's been. But it's all for the good, and it contributes to better performance.
Yeah. Timothy Green, who's a loyal viewer, said, Mick, he said, you guys were using isometrics back in your day, right?
Exactly. That is true.
Yeah.
That is a true statement. Yeah, it was all pressure resistance.
Yeah.
It wasn't how much you could lift. It was the number of reps you could do and the amount of resistance.
Amazing.
It was a different game back then.
And when they got done
Of
practicing,
course, there's always after practice, when you're already tired, and then if you really got lucky, you got to go run the stadium steps a few times if you missed your study hall.
I was going to say, when they got done with practice, they just folded their helmets up and put them in their pockets and went home.
Now, wait a minute, Greg. Wasn't that long ago?
I couldn't help that, man.
I'm glad we're talking about back in the day, because our guest next week, if there's any time that Mickey Plumlee needs to do the introduction, Greg, of our guest next week, this is the night.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Darren, if you would throw that up, and Mickey can talk a bit about a person he knows very, very well.
Terry Snively, I tell you, one of the best secondary players ever at WVU, all around great guy, team player, one of my best buds for, almost 60 years now, I tell you. It's been a long, long time. Excited to have Terry on the show. It'll be wonderful having him talk about what it was like being a Mountaineer back in the 1960s.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And Mick, I'll give you the honors. We'll let you introduce him next week. It's only fitting. So
Absolutely.
that'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be more than happy to.
And when you think about a guy in the backfield making those interceptions like Eric did, 30 years later, that's what Terry did, man. You think of that Peach Bowl game and what he did in the mud, in the quagmire, just unbelievable. The only thing is, I'm not quite sure we're going to be able to have Terry with us on a video basis. We might have to do it just with a phone interview, but nevertheless, having him is it'll be 3 weeks in a row, right? Defensive back. That's interesting. We'll look forward to that. So
that'll be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. If there's nothing else, I guess we can gear ourselves up to.
There is one thing. If you could throw up that graphic there, I've got to do some self-promotion here.
I'm sorry. There we go.
Yeah, my new book is out. True Prue was published last Tuesday. It's available everywhere. It's a book about Darryl Prue. It's a book about a lot more. It takes a deep dive into metropolitan basketball back in the day, the 1980s, and looks at a lot of the dynamics in the game, and also I think tells a story of a guy that never imagined he would end up in West Virginia in Morgantown. I thought he was going to be going to Georgetown and would have been on a national championship, probably on a national championship team had he gone to Georgetown, because that's when Big John Thompson was the coach. But Garrett Ford, big name in Mountaineer sports, and others, including Gil Catlett and Coach McPherson, really pushed hard to get Darryl out to WVU, and he became a member of the Hall of Fame and had a great career. So it's available everywhere, and we're working on doing some book signings in the Morgantown and Charleston area that we'll be announcing soon. So I don't like to do this, but after spending so much time on it, there it is, folks. Go out, run out and buy it.
There you go. Go get you a copy. Guarantee it's going to be a good read. Guarantee you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. I'd like to read your stuff, Frank, and not only do you, and I'll mention this, not only do you write it well, but you also pass along names of people who also do it well. And I've just finished a book that you gave me and recommended to me, was Jonathan Hart's book. Unfortunately, I'm available. And what a fun book to read. I really enjoy it.
I've gotten to know him, and he's just unbelievable. We've got to have him on the show one night.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how many people will be able to understand him, because he has a thick New York City brogue, but he is funnier than hell. And that's right. The title of the book, Unfortunately, I'm Available. He ends up in these crazy circumstances. And but at any rate, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, as I read it, I kept thinking, how does he end up in all these jobs? How does he get these jobs?
That's right. It's incredible.
But yeah, get the Prue book. It'll be well worth their time, I guarantee you, and your money. So, all right, guys, appreciate everything tonight. Mickey, thank you again for your great contributions. Darren, appreciate you behind the scenes. Frank, as always, appreciate your work and research that you do, and appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching us here on the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. We look forward to coming to you again next week. And on Wednesday night, we'll be having another one. So we thank you again for watching. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday night. Good night, everybody.